Hello everyone and welcome to Unconventional GMs, the channel where we play with vigour and hopefully show you some good GMing and playing tips. So this game should be in 2 hours or less, thereabouts. We'll see. We're going to test out one of our guest GMs today. So we have with us the ever ebullient Shane. Do you want to tell us about the game we're going to play today and what it's all about?
Hello everybody, thank you very much. I am here to run Salvage Union for the stream. Salvage Union is a hopeful blue-collar post-apocalyptic mech game. You play as salvaging mech pilots in your traveling Union crawler community who are salvaging to keep going, to trade for better things, and to avoid the hunger and control of the ever-reaching corporate forces and who brought this apocalyptic wasteland into being. The game's themes are very much those of community and hope, but also a little bit of struggle and adversity. And of course, as all games, it has characters. So I'd like to hand over, please, first to Guy to introduce his character.
Yeah, thanks. I'm Guy from this and the Burn After Running blog. I am playing Dusty. He's a soldier, ex-corp. He's seen some things in his life. He's a grizzled veteran, but his conscience got the better of him, and he decided to leave the corporate way. He disobeyed orders when he was asked to kill some innocents, and packed up, stealing his old rifle and probably salvaging what he could from the corporate lockers to construct his hussar mech that he now pilots. He still has his old corporate fatigues on, but they've been scuffed and adapted as much as you can imagine. You can just make out the old logo that he scratched over from here. He carries an old battered book to remind him of where he's come from, and as a sort of grizzled old scruffy beard now that he's not in the army and doesn't have to shave and keep up appearances from there. So that's me, Dusty.
And Jag, would you like to introduce us to your character next, please?
Evening all, I'm Jag. I mostly play tabletop games, so it's great to be back with the Unconventional GMs and our motley crew again. Tonight, I am playing a young mech engineer who uses the call sign Oil Slick. He's always got his retro Walkman on, playing 70s rock clipped to his belt, which keeps his grease-stained, patched-up jumpsuit in place. He joined this company after leaving a cushy corporate gig for some more hands-on action, and now he gallivants around in a leaky scrapper mech that he calls affectionately Dio. It's battered on the outside, it's pristine on the inside, and he loves to turn on its flashing RGB lights, especially when it's dark, cold, and we're in the middle of nowhere. Because, well, what's the worst that could happen? Over to you, Alex.
Hello, everybody. I'm Alex. Glad to be playing back with the Unconventional GMs once again. Today I am playing call sign Bingo, hauler. Bingo's never happier than when he's either on the road going to somewhere new to look for some new salvage, or in the guts of a machine that needs to be stripped down or put back together. He's a union man for life, very much dedicated to his craft and what he does. He's piloting this huge kind of mule mech that's kind of this lumbering beast across the landscape that he pilots on his adventures and fills with all kinds of bits and bobs that he's sure will come in handy.
And last but not least, it's me. I'm Gaz. By the way, I didn't introduce myself at the start. I'm one half of this and one half co-host of What Would the Smart Party Do, the UK's premier RPG podcast. But tonight I am playing Socrates, who's a hacker, a young kid on the block, wears bright, luminous jumpsuits all the time, dyed dreadlock hair, and loves just tinkering with tech and trying to basically not leave their mech and mess with other people's mechs and technology and corporate stuff and whatever they can get their hands on, basically from the comfort of their crashed chair. His mech Spectrum, boxy, blocky, chonky mech on little stubby legs, because he doesn't really need to run around fast or get in fights with like that. It's all via electronic warfare, his view of the world. So that's me. So before I pass back, I will mention to you, loyal viewers and listeners, that you should like, subscribe, ring that bell. If you have any questions or comments about today's game, please do leave a comment below, because you know we'd love to hear from you and it helps the channel out. And with all that little bit of housekeeping done, I can hand back to Shane to get us going.
So we find ourselves out in the wastelands, and your Union crawler has detected a distress signal from an Evantis Industries air transport. Now, you all know that because of the radiation storms in the wasteland, air transport is rare and expensive and risky. So whatever they're transporting by air must be important. And that means it's probably valuable. And if it's corp, well, they probably don't need it anymore, right? So your Union crawler happened to be close by to the old ruined city of Hope Falls, a before-time city. None of you have ever been there before, but you've heard of it. And that's where the distress call has come from. So you have a map of the region, which the viewers at home can't see, but the players have access to, which shows the different areas around Hope Falls. You can also expect, you've heard from Radio Chatter, your precepts, who is the sort of chief of the boat almost for your Union crawler, has detected Radio Chatter from an Evantis corporate retrieval team. And you know all too well, Dusty, how Evantis work, having left them behind. You also know there's a band of wasters living nearby from a broken Union crawler that was destroyed. Whether they're the original occupants or not, you don't know. They're not believed to be raiders. And of course, radiation storms all over the place. Having used your scanners and spoken to the people in the Union crawler, you've got a rough overview of the area. There are rumors that a bio-titan haunts the mountains. The bio-titan is something that remains from the last war, a weapon gone wrong. If we all remember in the fantastic Alien series of films, the corpse trying to control the alien and failing, it's kind of like that, but bigger. So you have a choice of deployment locations. Through your scans, you realize there are 2 safe deployment zones where you've got a chance to bring the crawler close, the vulnerable crawler, unload your mechs, power up, get ready, and have the crawler retreat away to a safe distance. There's a protected outcrop that overlooks a radiation desert near some rugged foothills. Or there's a hidden valley, oh so close to the mountain rumoured to hold the bio-titan, but also very accessible to a former reservoir and the settlement of Scrapper's Bluff. Do you have a preference?
Well, go ahead.
Sorry, go on, Alex. The abundance of politeness, I'll dive in then. I just noticed I have a data scanner for my
you do
mech, which allows me to. It has a repository of all kinds of information, and I can scan objects and gain information about them and store data for later. Would that be something that I could have done as we pull up in the crawler? Could I kind of like scan both locations to see which seems most useful to us?
Yeah, if you'd like to expend the energy points necessary to use that ability.
Sure.
So, you know, they are both individually safe locations, but the protected outcrop shows recent signs of mech transit through and some radiation scarring from recent storms. The hidden valley has no such tracks through it. However, your scanners potentially detect out near the reservoir a large number of munitions. They might be unexploded ordnance, they might be mines and booby traps. Without getting closer, you wouldn't be sure. So on balance, the protected outcrop seems the more immediately safe. However, there was signs of previous passage.
Which I will relay to everybody via their screens and their relevant mechs, obviously.
Yep.
We're
probably going to get into some kind of fight sooner or later, but maybe a safer landing will give us a time to get an idea of the area, know what we're dealing with, and proceed as planned. We don't want to drop into some kind of war zone from the start and exploding munitions. It's not my idea of a good time.
Yeah, I'm not bothered about what's happened before. Mech transit will be everywhere. We might even be able to tell which direction they've gone in, and that might that might help us plot a route to the recovery.
Yeah, I agree. I think that radar tracks should give us a good sign of what to avoid or what to look out for. Gives them some clues about what's on the ground here.
Grand. So it sounds to me like we've arrived at a consensus for the protected outcrop.
Yeah, inside my mech, you can see me frowning. I was going to suggest the other option, but as everybody else has given their opinion, that's when Socrates joins in and goes, "Oh yeah, definitely the outcrop sounds the best option. I've done plenty of scans, and that's what we should definitely do."
Always happy to follow your lead, Socrates. It was your judgment's always been great in these instances. I was thinking of the other one actually, but as you after your information, yeah, I agree with you definitely.
I've looked at all the topographical information. I think that's right. Yeah.
So the Union crawler, and yours is an exploratory crawler that moves on 6 ponderous legs that can cross any terrain, and it slowly makes its way to the edge of the protected outcrop, and the huge mech bay doors creak open, the ramp extends down, and you look out into the bright morning light. You find yourself about halfway up a set of mountains. You can see the high mountains to your right, the desert to your left, and in the distance, some hours away, a ruined city of Hope Falls. Deceptively peaceful here.
Mm-hmm. Maybe they've already picked it clean and gone.
So I had a voice in my head saying deceptively peaceful, which means that there's some deception going on.
All right,
So,
well,
yeah.
let's deploy and get a proper read of the area. There's no substitute for seeing it with our own 2 eyes up close.
So you all depart and deploy from the Union crawler, which closes those doors behind and begins to retreat away to a safe distance. While armed and protected, it is still vulnerable to a proper assault. So it withdraws away to safety. As you take time to power your mechs up and test your various devices, you find yourself alone with the whistling wind and this protected outcrop. So the way this game works in terms of movement, it takes you an hour to move between each of the zones on the map that you can see. And in those zones, obviously, there'll be encounters and things like that. And it's very much up to you to decide the route you want to take and how you want to prepare for anything. Here, you've got just you and those mech tracks.
And do the tracks lead up into the foothills?
They lead down to the Rad Desert.
Right, okay.
So having used your scanner as you've been pulling up and that, you can identify some of these mech tracks. And although the wind is blowing away, blowing dust over the top of them and interfering with some of the indentations, your scanners can tell you that at least one of them is a brawler mech, which is a fairly high-tech combat machine favored by Evantis. But interestingly, there is a Hussar mech as well. And Hussar mechs are usually used by the Contour Corporation, although, as Dusty knows well, Evantis also have some of them. You reckon there are maybe 4 or 5 mechs in this party.
As in Chirig, or Hussar as in mounted soldier? Okay.
Hussar as in mounted soldier.
Well, I really all this, as usual.
Of course.
Okay, well, let's look at this. If we're going to get to Hope Falls, where the majority of this thing landed, then going by the Rad Desert and the highway seems like an easy way to do it, even though we're following everybody else in their tracks. Arguably, though, if we go to the rugged foothills, we might get a better vantage point, might be able to see if we can speed down the highway and not lose that much time, or even get up the mountain pass to see what there is.
Is there any sense from the tracks how long ago this other party?
Only a couple of hours.
Time may well be of the essence here. We don't want to pick the safe route and die a slow death. My inclination is that we should race into the Rad Desert, and if there's going to be a confrontation, I don't know. I don't know if the corpos may well have better topographical data than us. Certainly, if we end up fighting in the ruins of their own wreck, they're going to have the upper hand. there's going to be a confrontation, maybe it's better if it happens sooner rather than later.
Chase them down in the Rad Desert.
Yeah, they'll be
From behind.
expecting more people to
Besides
arrive.
that rad-laden air makes me feel alive.
It's what I breathe for.
So you know that you will be protected inside your mechs from the radiation. However, they will heat your mech up. You're well aware of this. So you begin to make your way down from this protected outcrop. It's slow and careful going down the scree slopes and the mountains, and you do still see bits and bobs of the tracks every now and again. In the distance, as you come down, you can see the dark clouds of the radiation storms becoming more angry. But as you approach, maybe sort of half an hour later, as you come down towards the edge of this patch of radiation desert, you do see what looks to be a ruined building of some sort, a large, huge one, a little bit deeper into the desert. And you can see, looking around, scattered all over the place, twisted metal parts and things like that. This is obviously a rich, if risky, salvage zone.
We shouldn't let good scrap go to waste. I know I did say time is of the essence, but I would be in favour of taking a bit of time to see what we can dig up here.
Oh, you're always the same.
If we hit a big enough mother load, we can go home early.
I suppose there is that. No harm in looking, right?
So am I to understand you're going to pause your journey to salvage the area?
I think so, yeah.
So you can salvage specific things here in this game. You can salvage specific chassis, bit of rubbish, or you can salvage an entire area, which takes longer, and it will take an energy point from a mech that does it. But you can often find more stuff, if not a specialized stuff, and that an area salvage will incorporate this ruined building, which, as you get closer, you realise is a ruined factory with a faded E symbol that Dusty recognises oh so well on its side. So the way that salvage works in this area salvage is every area has a tech level, and this is a tech level 3, so it's quite a high tech factory. And it has a supply of 4, meaning up to 4 people can attempt area salvage if they desire. Area salvage in a mech takes 10 minutes, but in order to do that, you must have the salvaging trait in one of your pieces of equipment on your mech. Or you can get out an area salvage as a pilot, but that will require getting out into the radiation storm, which is definitely not recommended by Union health and safety rules. What'll it be?
As the hydraulic crusher arm on my mech begins to whine and power up, it's clear that I do not intend to get out of my chair in order to make the most of this rich picking.
Great. So can I ask you, please, to spend an energy point and make the first die roll of the game? So all dice rolls in Salvage Union are done with a single 20-sided dice, higher the better. And if you could make an area salvage roll, please. And I believe you're an expert salvager.
Indeed.
Is that something you
Yes.
would like to activate?
It is. So I will spend my AP to do that.
Yep.
And the other important thing to note is the hydraulic crusher is not just for show. When I area salvage with the system, I gain a single additional scrap of the tech level of the area in addition to whatever I roll. So
fantastic.
Won't affect my dice roll, actually. The opposite, but worth mentioning. Shall I go ahead and roll?
Please do make a roll, sir.
Okay.
So that's a 14. A 14 is a comfortable success. That would normally get you 3 scrap of the tech level. But because you're an expert salvager and because you have that awesome device, you have gotten 5 tech 3 scrap. So that will take up 5 of your mech cargo bay slots and is rich pickings indeed. That's more than enough to keep your Union crawler going for another week. Just off of your first roll, more than enough.
You're welcome, everybody.
So what does salvaging the area look like for those observing you?
It's actually maybe surprisingly unmethodical. Actually, it's not. My mech kind of moves in sort of jerky motions, so I'm not slowly but surely combing everything. I am magpie-like, kind of seeking out the best bits. Sitting in my cockpit, which gives like a good view of the surrounding area. I've got a little telescope that I bring up to my eye, and I'm just, there's no substitute for the naked eye when enhanced through technology, and just picking out the best bits and pieces. I think I've got quite used to learning to spot all the telltale signs of the best stuff, logos, perhaps things that have been unpacked. So I'm not just pulling apart old pieces of machinery. I'm getting brand new stuff fresh out of the box. And then that arm comes down, and the arm always looks like it's going to fall off when it grips. The whole mech lurches in a way that to others is perhaps a bit worrying, but clearly I enjoy, and it just brings it all home. And I'm kind of whistling as
Absolutely.
I do it, clearly in my
But
head.
those rich pickings come at a cost. Could I ask everybody please to add 2 heat points to your mech? Heat points can be shared by switching your mech off for a period of time, but obviously not in a rad storm. And I'm going to have to ask everybody to make a heat check, please. And for a heat check, it's a 20-sided die, and if you roll over your current heat level, you are fine.
Good, but still close.
Grand. So, yeah, you get sort of minus various low-level warnings and sensors detecting that there's radiation, and you can sort of see the heat gauges slowly ticking up on your mechs. But everything's under control at the moment, as you have done so. Jag. Apart from oil slick.
Something is catching.
Exhaust vent.
Something's catching.
Can you smell something?
I could tell as soon as I was clicking the dice roller. It was like, hang on a second. I think I might have got distracted by my Walkman. Like the tape was jamming. Suddenly pressed the wrong button or something, and everything suddenly felt a lot hotter. Getting flustered in here. Is that me? Is that the man? What's going on?
It would seem you didn't back your reactor off by 10% when you hit the radiation storm, as everybody with a scrapper knows to do. So unfortunately, that is a fail of a heat check. So I'm going to ask you to roll again on the reactor overload table, please. And don't be alarmed by the name, because I'm sure everything's fine.
These kids running their mechs to the absolute limit.
Redlining all the way.
So this is where high is good, right?
It is. High is good. And even better is because you have a scrapper, you can ignore the negative effects of rolls like this from radiation. So the reason we rolled is because you may have got a 20 and got a really positive result where your reactor responded well to it, went into overdrive. Unfortunately, you didn't. But because you have a scrapper, you can ignore the slight negative effect that would accompany that roll. So a slight sigh of relief as the lights flashing begin to calm down as your scrapper's safety protocols take over.
With some relief, he stretches out and flexes his chainsaw arm and brings it back in line and wafts it just to give it a bit of cooling.
So whilst Bingo has finished salvaging, what is everybody else doing?
I'm monitoring the airwaves and electromagnetic spectrum for any kind of like comms or chatter that might be happening amongst potential enemies, or anyone who might be trying to like observers or anything like that.
Okay. Do you have any specific modules that apply to that you would like to activate?
I mean, I have got my data scanners. They're quite expensive to use though.
They are. If not though, please do feel free to make a roll for see what you can pick up on your radio. And I would just be referring to the normal core mechanic table.
Okay, let's do that. I mean, I've got long range comms and high gain antenna and all kinds of things for actually spotting things.
So do you know what? You have a high gain antenna. You don't need to roll. You can pick up encrypted radio chatter out on the highway. It's coming in short bursts, indicating that whoever's speaking is speaking with a clipped efficiency over their radios.
Yeah, so probably corpse, or could it be? Yeah,
probably. Most salvagers don't tend to have encrypted comms. They're actually being with nothing to hide.
So has anyone got? Can we manipulate the rad storms anyway? Has anybody got anything else? I'm just wondering if there's something we could do to kind of like flood the highway or create distraction that allow us to sort of like scuttle past or something. I'm not sure on the abilities of your mechs.
Unfortunately, controlling the weather is beyond any of you.
Yeah, I don't have anything.
I've heard rumours of devices called rainmakers that can do that, but honestly, they just sound like tall tales.
I read it on a message board. It must be true.
I do have a flare I can fire, which I don't think is going to do enough in terms of a distraction, but and it's only long range, so we need to get a bit closer. But it might be it'd be worth a pump when we can see them. I don't love it as plan A.
Okay, so are we reckoning we're going to try and like just sprint past them then or something, or get past, or actually like set up an ambush to win them off?
We can,
because we're going to have to. If they're on the highway, we're going to have to encounter them sooner or later.
We can try and ambush them. That might be ideal. They might. We're salvage, right? They probably expect us to scuttle around and run away. If we ambush them head on, then maybe with the element of surprise and perhaps a bit of luck, we can hit them hard. Besides, they're all salary men, right? They'll run home as soon as one of their mechs falls apart.
It's a very large highway as well, so triangulating them is beyond the high gain antenna. So they could be anywhere in that highway.
Okay.
Are you getting a pattern of movement? They're definitely heading towards Hope Falls or going towards H9. What direction?
Really impossible to tell without specialist equipment.
Well, let's make for the highway and just be cautious that there could be some of the corks out there. Where?
Okay.
I'm wondering whether Oil Slick notices anything from the way that these well-known types of mech are moving on the terrain, the trails and tracks that they're leaving. Whether there's anything that gives us a clue about the state of repair that they're in, whether there's anything unusual about their movement that gives us a clue into possible weaknesses that we might exploit from them, or also something that gives us a sense of what formation they are routinely adopting.
It sounds to me like you might be referring to your engineering expertise ability.
I think so, yeah.
So if you'd like to spend your action point, please, you are able to answer questions about mechanical engineering topics. 2 questions to me, and it sounds like you've asked 2 questions in that. So you are sure these mechs are well maintained. The footprints are even. The mechs are moving at speed. You can't see any drips of coolant or oil or anything like that. No signs of misshapen legs or foot parts or anything like that. So they're obviously and they are moving fast, meaning they're probably well maintained, well fueled, reactors tuned. So this is obviously expensive and probably corporate, most likely. In addition, they left all of this salvage. They weren't bothered about any of it. And as Bingo attested, this is rich pickings, and they just breezed right past. They obviously have a mission in mind. You have 1 question in reserve. So when you get eyes on them, please remind me and ask me a question about them, and I shall furnish you, as it seems fair to let you have both questions, even though there's very little to learn in this circumstance.
Okay, thank you.
And is Dusty up to anything while this is going on?
I'd sort of agree with the plan that we're gonna have to take the fight to them at some point. That's our best shot, I think, to try and ambush them or something. My zoom optics I'm not going to switch them on now. Obviously, that would be ridiculous because they're quite expensive and not that far. But once we get a bit closer, I'm hoping I can sort of zoom in and get a plot, and maybe we can lure them with that snare, that flare, and then circle around. The thing about corpos, you're right. It'd be nice to. Dusty knows this himself, but he says to the rest of me, he agrees with what Bingo said and said, yeah, they're just a bunch of stuffed suits. They're just like on the job. They'll run at the first sign of trouble. That's the thing to remember. Though he's like flashback to like dispatching like hordes of raiders and scavengers, just like us, immediately, and like staying and really wiping the floor with them and leaving no man alive as he sort of pauses momentarily and not listen to people. Yeah.
Grand. So you turn your backs on the abandoned factory and move out of the area of the radiation storms. Your mech's breathing an almost unconscious sigh of relief as the radiation gauges begin to dip down. And it takes you probably the best part of an hour to move across this expanse of radiation desert. But you're making quick enough time that it's only a negligible increase at this point to the heats on your mech. And would you hook round the base of the hills, or would you go across the sort of flat bit as quick as possible? Speed or stealth, really?
I think it's going to be stealth.
Yeah.
I'm going to sort of like, I've been acquiescing to other people's views, but I'm going to like just give them guidance on this one, because if we're going to potentially have to ambush someone, then I think stealth, and also the whole like speed element. After we've just spent half an hour waving chainsaws around to kill down and digging through old ruins, like I'm not being convinced by that we need to rush kind of argument anymore. So yeah, I'm going to advise the group that we need to go cautiously in case we need to ambush the corpos.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
cool.
Great.
Now, in terms of stealth, Socrates has a Sleeping Beauty module, which will allow you. It can't hide you from the naked eye, as Bingo proved. That is a great asset, but it can, however, protect you from anything which could scan or hack you. Are you at the stage of using that, or?
Yeah, if I can use it while moving. I assumed it was one because it makes us look like we're shut down, so I just thought we had to stay still. But if we can move around and use it, then definitely.
You can. Basically, the way it works is until somebody activates. So it affects each of you that are close to Socrates, and then you individually are masked. And then as soon as anybody activates a module, so anything which costs you EP or causes a roll, you individually lose your masking, but the others don't until they do the same. So they won't be able to roll to detect you with scanners. It just works.
So we could potentially use that.
So after I've got everybody in for motion, yeah, I'll ninja mode.
Yeah.
And I'll put my special mask on that I've got for when we do that. Not that anybody can see it from the outside of the mech, but makes me feel better.
Grand. So you spend your energy points, please, and you activate the Sleeping Beauty module. And you have confidence that you are now masked from any sensors or targeters that might be reaching out to try and find you. And you begin to push on, hugging close to the hills under the cover of the Sleeping Beauty. You're able to use the undulating hills and occasional craters from what presumably was 100 or 150 years ago, some form of nuclear attack on the city. You're able to cover your approach. And ahead of you, the city getting ever bigger, and to your right, the mountains getting ever closer. But ahead of you, the ground begins to level out, and you can see that this was built at the exit to a valley area, and you get a good view of a pock-marked and ruined highway that stretches from right to left as far as you can see in either direction. It's covered in craters, slightly overgrown, cracked, but still noticeable as a line in the otherwise sort of deserty terrain. There's some kind of movement on the highway, small things. It takes a moment for your eyes to process the scale and the distance, but they're probably a good sort of mile away at this point. Multiple small things moving quickly, milling around. But at this range, it's impossible to make out much detail.
Sorry.
By small things, at that distance, are we still talking small in the scale of us, or are we talking small in the scale of rodents?
You reckon they're mechs?
Well, we'll just keep a weather eye on them and try and skirt and make our way across to the potential salvage point that we're after, I think. And if it becomes apparent the homing gunners are getting just randomly too close, then we'll set up some kind of defensive ambush position.
And your high gain antenna picks something up. what you originally assumed to be background radiation noise, you realise as you get closer and it gets louder, is jamming. There is some form of active jamming going on, and occasionally breaking through it, you hear the broken words of "Mayday, attack, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday."
Patch everyone in.
Yeah, and you can hear a very, very fearful sounding voice. It doesn't need to be recording, because every so often they'll swear or they'll stop and change what they're saying. Somebody seems to be broadcasting a Mayday and something is jamming it.
Mm-hmm.
Do we act? I ask the group in the group chat. Do we actively care about anybody else in trouble?
Or is this our opportunity to steal our way to the prize?
Where's our moral compass at the minute?
Yeah,
Prize.
perhaps reluctantly, that would have to be me. I'm not sure. This is tough. We're already in hostile territory. But if we rescue someone, we've got a friend. Maybe that brings its own benefits. And if the cause of whatever's attacking them is something that's going to turn around and attack us, then maybe it's an opportunity to combine forces. But I'm
Maybe it's the corpos that goes under the Mayday. Maybe something's attacking there.
Is there something that you can discern from the terrain, or whatever you can scan from it, that will give us a vantage point to see what might be attacking what without getting involved, and then we can make a decision as to whether to get involved or run for, well, run away from the pillars, but into the forest.
If I engage any of that, I'm going to drop my own Sleeping Beauty, which I don't want to do. Yeah, maybe you or someone else could go look closer, and we can hang back here while one of you goes and takes a closer look.
I could do that. I've got my zoom optics. Yeah, my Hussar mech's quite fast. It's I've adapted it a bit from the Evantis model. So yeah, I'll break off and try and find the source of this Mayday to hopefully report back.
So between moving a little closer and those zoom optics, you can see what looks to be two groups of mechs fighting, although it's very one-sided. There are a group of thresher mechs, and threshers are they were originally agricultural mechs, but those chainsaws are good for ripping up mechs as well. And they are moving around, spitting machine gun fire at a pair of hauler mechs and a mech type you've not seen before. And they seem very beleaguered. Clearly not, they have weapons to protect themselves, but they are one of the mechs is already sort of down and trying to stand back up as the machine gun fire is being poured on it, an occasional laser blast from these threshers. Because you're closer, you can pick up more clear of the Mayday, and it is some traders who are calling out for assistance against raiders.
And what's my tactical sort of assessment of like 4 threshers against the 4 of us?
The threshers have taken a bit of damage, and presumably they've already been sort of generating heat using energy. You've got the element of surprise. You feel pretty confident as long as you don't get hit by a load of bad luck. Not to mention the fact that it would really be 6 of you at this point, because it's unlikely the traders would then turn on you.
I think I'll radio that back to people, back to my team, and say, recommend we intervene. This is a chance to make some friends, and get to know the lay of the land a bit better.
fine. Good chance to test out these systems too.
Yeah. So, what's the plan?
Wow. Socrates is very nervous about all this. He's great at playing Call of Duty and whenever the of this world actually getting involved in a fight. Little bit worried. So the Spectrum is going to hide back, and Socrates is going to try and use some electronic warfare to disrupt one of these mechs. I like the older and wiser / bolder people get involved in actual fighting.
Yeah, this is definitely not corpo duty. That's my one pun for the night. So, initiative in this is done as a group, but because you have the element of surprise, I'm going to give you a choice. You can either roll, in which case there is a chance you could get a critical and get an absolute unwavering advantage, but because you're crossing open ground to get here, it's going to be quite difficult. But you're under the Sleeping Beauties, or you can take an automatic success, which basically means you'll be acting first, but won't have the benefits of a critical success on your initiative.
I'm taking the cautious option.
Yeah, let's play it safe. We set up enough battlefield advantages that we don't need to risk a gamble here.
Yeah.
Great. So if you imagine the sort of 6-lane motorway, the middle barrier has been long salvaged for metal scrap, and the other mechs, the trader mechs, are retreating as the threshers move around them. So you'll be coming sort of out of the sunlight with all the advantages. Who's going to be taking the lead in as you get close to these threshers?
I think that's probably me. I'm going to sort of just be on them in a flash, dual linked green lasers on one of them, try and take one of them out straight away, and then my companions can follow up, but hopefully get rid of one straight away. Then we'll have the element of intimidation with them.
Great. So your weapon link means you can make 2 attacks. So spend the energy for both of your weapons, please. Sorry, the heat for both your weapons, because I believe they are both weapons with the hot trait.
They are, and I have to spend some more heat as well because they're linked.
The weapon, yeah, so it'll be a total of 6 heat. However, it has a chance to be a devastating initial salvo.
Yeah, well, I'm aiming them both at 1, so straight away.
Yeah,
doing it.
Absolutely. So you want to go ahead and make me 2 attack rolls, please. And then once we've done the numbers, you can describe what it looks like. Okay, so both of those, because they are below 11, are going to be a qualified success. None of them are into the salvage, into the sort of failure.
I was going to say that as I step forward and charge forward, I get a little bit of a flashback to when I was in this situation before, and my trigger finger just shakes a little bit on there, and I just can't bring myself. These are raiders. These aren't, they've probably got a story, a family of their own and stuff. And I get the little flashbacks to why I left the corpo in the middle. But then I remember my motto of feel the fear and do it anyway, and trigger that, which gets me back into the moment and hopefully
allows you to make a reroll.
Reroll one of these, and hopefully it'll be better.
Yes. There we go. So we'll get the rules out of the way, then you can describe it. So the lower one, the 10, is a tough choice. You can succeed at a cost. So either you can give away your approach, meaning you'll lose the advantage, or you can do half damage with 1 hit. The other one will be a critical, so you will full damage, or you can choose some other form of positive bonus effect that's appropriate to the tactical situation.
I'm not bothered about not revealing my approach. I think that was the idea. I'm going to draw them out anyway, so I'm happy to take that as I'm a really obvious target as I charge in. And I think, we're just going to sort of damage and run these off. So I think double damage is the obvious one to take from that in terms of where we are out on the highway.
So that is 4 points and 8 points, total of 12 points of damage. And these hapless thresher mechs, whilst being fairly robust, are not particularly combat mechs. So your green laser fire rain is going to rain down on them, and is going to all but destroy one of the mechs. So what does this look like?
I think there's a barrage of fire from the twin green lasers of my hussar. It doesn't hit initially. It sort of skirts round as the auto fire kicks in, and it looks like it's going to strafe and just do a sort of glancing blow, but it stops right on the thresher. And as the thresher sort of ducks to move out of the way. It stays trained on it just a little bit too long as it collapses and starts to, even as it sort of falls to the floor, the fire keeps on it. But obviously, then I'm silhouetted against the sun, and it's really obvious it's me. Hopefully, to the advantage of my fellow squad members who will be able to sneak in behind me and deal with the rest of them. You never know.
Absolutely. So yeah, you unleash on the thresher, and having been poorly maintained and already damaged, you have put this down as you described. So at this point, I'm going to ask who wants to go next.
I believe I need to make a heat check, I'm afraid, as well.
Oh, because you use your weapon link. Yes, thank you very much.
I don't want to remind you too much of that in case
no, you're
below 8, but it's possible.
Honesty and integrity is its own reward.
Yeah, and well, or not, as it is.
No. So unfortunately, that's an awful lot of heat on top of that radiation earlier. Could I ask you to make a reactor overload roll, please? Another 20-sided die roll, 11. So your reactor's mech has overheated. So it shuts down for 1 turn as you're silhouetted against the sun. In addition, you take your current heat in structure points of damage.
And briefly, while this calms it down, I'll be saying to others, I told him not to fire both lasers at once. Why don't he even listen?
So what does that look like, please, Gaz? Guy? Gaz, sorry.
I think, there's just as I'm silhouetted against the sun and my shadow is sort of looming over them, presenting this perfect target, like the laser fire just stops and locks, and a little sort of loading bar almost appears on my heads-up display that goes through, and I think everyone else sees it on the comlink as well. That I'm just, it's like when someone crashes out of a Zoom call and that's like reconnecting appears, and everyone knows when this happens. It's not usually me it happens to, I like to think, but it is, and they can all hear in there. Well, they can't hear, but they can picture me like shouting and like slapping the center of the. You just see the mech juddering as I'm like slapping the side of the panel to try and get it to work a bit faster.
Nice. And Gaz, I believe you were about to jump in with some decisive action to save the day.
No, not at all. I'm gonna try a gamble with my electronic warfare and see if something happens or not. So yeah, I'm gonna hack another of the new shiny wreckers, not the one that's been damaged.
Yeah.
Just to try and disable a little bit. So I've got my hacking kit, and I'm gonna tap in to his mech and try and turn on all the radiators and the heat and the cooking stove and things. So basically, I'm just gonna try and induce a reactor overload with my hacking kit.
Fantastic. So at this point, I believe they just need to make a reactor overload check.
That's right.
Right. So I'm going to make my first roll of the game.
Yes, if you can roll that.
Unfortunately not, but they also overheat. So you succeed in overheating their mech, and the same thing happens as happened to Dusty. What does it look like? You know, if the sort of camera pans in on you as you're hacking.
There's multiple screens that I've got all around me, all with matrix-style code coming down as I'm tapping away furiously and spinning a trackpad and stuff. And I've got like a comic version of what's happening on my screen, and you see the static version of our mech with the green laser still. And just as this other wreck is raising its chainsaw up, I turn on all the functionality within the mech, and there's just a blast of gases that come out of the wrecker as it tries to expel the heat, and the locked arm of the chainsaw just like is half above his head as it's frozen in place, and you can almost see it glowing cherry red with the heat that's building up.
And the mech he was about to strike continues to clump backwards as the hauler as fast as it can away from the mech, and you sense the pilot is very surprised that the attack stopped and still doesn't know why. So at this point, I'm going to hand back to them on account of they know you're here. So basic initiative at this point will now start to leapfrog between the two. So over the comms, the jamming drops. All of a sudden, the Mayday signal becomes much clearer, and you hear a drawly voice say, "Hell, we got some people joining in." And one of the threshers turns round and begins to stomp towards the vulnerable mech and wield its chainsaw, but turns its 50 cal towards one of the other mechs and begins to spit lead in the direction of sorry, and in the sorry, please excuse me. And it turns 50 and begins to spit lead in the direction of Oil Slick's mech. But he has a tough choice. So Oil Slick, you can decide to either take half damage or his weapon can jam.
I think that his weapon will jam.
Cool. So take 2 points of damage, please. Structure points damage as the 50 cal rounds shatter plates and spang off of your mech. Obviously, as we know, it's not exactly pristine on the outside, so maybe people don't notice. But then there's a sudden stop of the fire and a cursing over the radio as the weapon jams. Back to you. Who's next?
Or Slick, if you want revenge, you can go for it. Otherwise, I'm happy to take turn.
Yeah, so I think Oil Slick is he's probably found a place where he can hook one end of his high tensile wire to, and his intention is to keep that in place and essentially run round the rest of this party and guillotine the Thresher mechs, take them down. I'm hoping that they're a little bit taller than the trader group that is there, and basically run them down so that they are knocked over in some way. And he'll do this while pumping his chainsaw arm at the same time.
Okay.
But the main thing is to make ground and pivot around the high tensile wire.
Great. So you want to make a roll, and then we can narrate the appropriate outcome based on the result.
I mean, the roll is
7. So you're going to have a tough choice of success at a cost, unless you wish to invoke a reroll, which you can do through your motto, your keepsake, your background, or through pushing your mech by spending 2 hit points.
Yeah. So I think that he's looking at this this carnage along the ground, and he's turned up, having gone through this Rad Desert where everything is silent. He's thought, well, hang on, we need to turn up the metal here. And so he's pumped it up, and all he can hear is do, 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 and it gives him a real urge to get back through there and explode in an Iron Man style.
Cool. So you want to make a reroll, please? Oh, dear. Well, unfortunately, you can only reroll once. So this is a tough choice. So you can succeed in taking one of the mechs down, or you can succeed in hampering multiple mechs.
I think that I'll take one down fully because we've got.
So you basically run round, and the mechs are beginning to scatter as the laser fire came in, so you can't quite get round them all. But you managed to run round and wrap the high tensile wire snow speeder stylely around the legs of one of the Thresher mechs, and it slams to the floor. And the pilot begins to use its chainsaw arm to try and cut the wire, but he's obviously tangled and he's going to be there for a while. So the last remaining unaccounted for Thresher, because at this point 2 of their people are going down, I am going to make a morale check for them. And they are quite content at this point to keep fighting. So the remaining mech with its red laser decides to turn on Oil Slick. Stops, plants its legs, and there's a flash of red as the laser fire blasts out, completely missing you. And we are then back to the top of the round. So, Guy, your mech is rebooting this round. You're still vulnerable, but it appears at this point that your colleagues have kept you safe. So, who from the crew would like to go first?
Simply because I've been waiting longest, I'm going to hack into one of the mechs again and try and overshadow their, or overclock. Their.
So the last remaining mech, you succeed in shutting it down. So at this point, because one of them's over, one of them's down, and 2 of them are shut down and rebooting, you can easily overpower them. You can either fight them off or destroy them. The choice is yours.
Can we take some prisoners to find out what's going on?
These are raiders. We can't really leave them. Can we like disarm them? So because that'll give us scrap as well. Like, can we take their chainsaws off and things like that?
Indeed, you have
empty all the ammo out and all that kind of stuff to replenish our stocks.
Indeed, I believe you could literally disarm their mechs using the tools that Bingo has. Yeah, so you're able to do that, and you can basically add to your salvage 4 chainsaw arms if you wish. In addition, you can their red lasers and machine guns. They are sort of harder to take off, but easy to trash. So you're able to sort of do away with their armament, and they curse you for it, but you won. They didn't. But you're contacted by the voice that gave the mayday earlier. Oh my goodness! I don't know who you are, but you're a gift from the heavens. Thank you. Who are you? Let me thank my saviors by name. And the guy hops out of a damaged mule mech and begins to make his way across on foot towards your mechs. He's a sort of late middle-aged guy dressed in coveralls with a cowboy hat.
Sure, I'll get out. I'm willing to come and meet him.
We'll circle the wagons, right? That's what you do in situations like this. You got your mechs around in a big circle, and then you'll get out to chat.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Guy, you can knock your heat down by half because you'll have time now to cool your mech down, as can everybody else.
What's your current heat after the half, guys? Is it still a little worrying, or is it okay?
My heat's for I'm more my own character's internal rage hasn't subsided, and he's most concerned about. I'm more concerned about my structure points, which are at 4 now. That's more of a concern. My heat's at 4 as well, but that's not too bad. But
I could probably take a look at that, do a bit of maintenance.
Indeed, you are, after all, an engineer.
Well, we've got lots of bits. We've just taken off some other mechs. I'm sure we can use that.
Yeah, looking over those arms. Yeah.
I can hose you down as well. Maybe you need a clean as much as anything else after that fight. If you want to deduct a heat, Guy, you're welcome to.
Yeah, but please don't. Is it just getting out of his mech?
You could use a wash, yeah.
So, if you're willing to spend one of the salvaged scrap that Bingo has, you can repair 6 structure points very easily, Jack.
Well, I'm happy with that. Does that still incur a cost of 1 extra point for me?
No, that's using the patch-up ability, which every engineer can do.
Oh, okay. Yeah, perfect. Let's do that.
I'll let him help himself to all the stuff I've got in my mech. I've deleted some scrap because I've got it to spare. Some of that stuff is probably worth keeping. There's some batteries and stuff in there, but the rest of it, take what you need to fix up his mech. I don't think that's the last fight of the day.
Yeah,
easily done. Absolutely. So,
and with that montage of repairs happening and people being hosed down and our cowboy companion on his way over, that seems like a good time we can take a little break. So we shall do that now. And then you viewers at home, don't need to worry too much. We'll edit it down, so it's just a few seconds for you. But we're going to go and hose ourselves down and get whatever repairs we need. I'll be back with you shortly. Hello everyone, welcome back to Salvage Union. We've been out on the highway, spread ourselves down, expended all our heat, and we're back again. So in the first part of Salvage Union, we were dropped off, went through some rad storms, saw the tracks of some corpos, and after salvaging some stuff, we thought there might be some corpse ahead when we heard a mayday signal, and as we stealthed closer, realised it was some nefarious salvagers attacking poor defenceless traders. So we leapt to their aid, disarmed and defeated said wreckers, sent them on their way, and as you join us again, we've just set up and got out of our mechs for the first time to unclag our suits from sticking to our skin and all that kind of stuff, and actually speak to someone face to face rather than over the internet, as we've been doing for a long time now. So, Shane, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, sir. So we rejoin as Bingo has approached this coverall and cowboy hat wearing trader. And as you approach, he thrusts his hand out towards and says, "Hey, friend, I'm Mercury, and I'm in your debt."
I take his hand in a firm handshake. I say, "You can call me Bingo, and we're a crew from Salvage Union 661 in the area, looking for good stuff." But
Union folks, knew it. You're good people.
yeah, you got any union affiliations yourself? You look like you're kind of sole traders.
We are, but we've had lots of good dealings with crawlers, and they've always treated us fair.
Well, we're glad to help out.
Not like raiders, and he spits in the direction of one of the raiders. We'd have been done for if he hadn't come along.
I've got to admire the balls on these raiders to attack with what are basically farming machines. Not that it makes it okay, but yeah, that was pretty one-sided.
I mean, a heavy machine gun's a heavy machine gun, no matter what it's mounted on, and we're not built for fights.
You can see that. How's the gear looking?
Yeah, we'll be able to get going. We're on our way to Scrapper's Bluff to trade with the people there. So I mean, we haven't even got anything that these raiders would need, unless they feel like farming for a living, which they probably don't if they're raiders.
Evidently not.
What brings you folks down here? I feel I owe you. How can I repay you? Can I help you with something? I can give you some seeds, but that's probably not much use to you in a crawler.
Afraid not. I think I've waved my companions over by now, unless any of them are feeling particularly antisocial. Introduce, oil slick, Socrates, and Dusty.
Yeah.
Well, we're always going.
There's a ship came down in these parts. I don't know whether you saw anything, scanned anything, seen anything burning, or smoke coming from plumes in the old city. But if there's anything about that you see on your travels, you could clue us in on. We want to kind of like nip across there and see if there's anything worth getting before the corpos get to it.
We did. We had to travel through the night to get through the areas to the south. I don't know if you've ever been to the south, but the plains there have all manner of radiation mutated creatures, and those things are big enough they'll try and tear mechs open. So we pushed through the night to avoid them, and we saw like a streak of fire. I thought it was a meteorite or something, but then we picked up a distress call, corpo signature Evantis, and then it went down hard. I reckon I could even hear the bang from 10 miles away when it hit, but I'm probably just imagining things, right? But I'm sure as hell not going in that city. About 2 hours ago, just after dawn, saw a lance of Evantis mechs making for the city, like the reactors were on fire.
Okay, have you got any coordinates or anything? I'll start pulling out my handheld devices and trying to pulling up topographical maps and stuff and saying, whereabouts was that? Where were they going? And I'll try and pump in for information.
Yeah, I mean, he's absolutely happy to give you as much information as he can. And he explained that the city is mostly ruined sort of residential areas, but things that stand out is there was an old central plaza, and he's been there once, and a lake that's now empty, lake bed with all manner of metal scrap in the bottom. And he thinks they were hooking round and coming in from the south, so they'll come up through a ruined light industrial district, and we're heading towards the central plaza, he thinks. Also, whilst the smoke has faded from whatever crashed, he reckons it was probably almost smack in the center, but there were little fires spread across, so he thinks it came apart.
You reckon that's the best way into Hope Falls, the route that they've taken, or is there another way that will get us there quicker or safer?
Well, what those and he sort of looks slightly aside at Dusty's sort of corpo fatigues, albeit repurposed. He said what those corpo slags don't know though is that industrial area that was rigged by the last group of raiders that used it. So there's buildings rigged to collapse, there's mines. They're going to have a lot of fun. You should go in round the lake.
That's the kind of repayment that we want.
It's slower, but it's safer.
Anything else we should know about Hope Falls? You go there much?
No, it's not very radioactive. I don't know what they dropped on the city, but it's not like the Rad Desert. But there's those mutant creatures come from somewhere, and I'm pretty sure it's Hope Falls.
All right.
But
So if the lake is slower but safer, I still got to keep these guys in tip-top condition. What do we need to look out for there? Is there something that's going to cause us some anguish? Or
I've never seen anything but
slow?
all the rubbish people would throw in a lake, right? But I've got to say, we're not salvagers. We haven't really paid attention to it. We tended to go and trade with people who were exploring the city, but that has been a couple of years now. Just got too dangerous.
All right. That's probably the sum of it. I don't think we need anything else. You've armed us well, and we're glad we're able to make a favourable trade. I'll give him the rough coordinates of where our crawler is. I think we can probably trust him. If you want to trade or anything, you know.
Well, you can give them the trade frequency of the crawler, and then they can reach out to it.
Yeah. Bear that in mind and look after yourself out there. There's probably more of these threshers and raiders about, right?
And if you make it up to Scrapper's Bluff, tell them you're a friend of Mercury, and they'll treat you fair.
Nice one. Watch how you go, friend.
And he shakes your hands again and heads back to his mech. So yeah, you find yourself on the ruined highway. The raiders have limped off sheepishly in their much chopped up mechs. One of them on foot because his mech was completely taken apart and by the green laser fire. And it's probably getting on towards midday now, the hottest part of the day, a balmy sort of 42, 45 degrees centigrade. For our American friends who might be watching, that's very hot.
Yeah, well, we're going by the lake, so if we start overheating, we can always take a little dip and just
the empty lake.
That's what I imagine in my
Dangle our
head,
legs
like,
Yeah.
Idyllic picture.
yeah.
Blasted radioactive wasteland that we see.
Dead fish bones or whatever.
Yeah.
It's still the open road.
It is.
We've got some UV protective oil that we can massage you down with before you get too far away.
So yeah, you make ready to proceed. Yes.
I think I speak for us all when we say we're going to take the directions that have been proffered to us and use that lake.
Yeah, for
absolutely. Sure. Yeah. So after another hour or so of travel, you begin to approach close to the outskirts of Hope Falls. And this was once, you're not sure, none of you are alive in the before world. This was maybe once an impressive city, but right now, you've seen reference the film Enemy at the Gates, Stalingrad at its height of destruction. Very much like that, but add a bit more overgrowth, as small, hardy weed plants and vines are slowly taking back the city, although the radiation is making them stunted and strange, unappetizing colors. And the city's an uneven mess of different heights of ruined buildings, pockmarked by whatever battles took place here in the corporate wars. In the distance, you can see the skeletal ribs of tall buildings, skyscrapers, and the like in what is probably the plaza. And ahead of you, you can see what was probably once a crafted park with a lake in it. There's naught now but a blasted hole in the ground full of twisted scrap, but no immediate signs of danger.
Well, as we're going, when we get to the point where it looks like we're actually getting to the city proper and the danger might begin,
And you are.
then that's when I'm going to activate my stealth module again. Unless anybody, I'll let everybody know. Like, if you get anything clever, do it now before I cloak us. But otherwise, I'm going to hit the switch again and keep us all covered up.
Yeah, let's hit stealth and press on. None of this scrap is promising enough to be worth sacrificing time.
Okay, I hit the Sleeping Beauty then and cover us all in a nice cloak of disguise.
Indeed. So yeah, you activate the Sleeping Beauty, and your signatures become muted to detection again. And you find yourself skirting the edges of this empty lake bed. Although as you get closer, you realise that there's perhaps 100 meters square of brackish-looking water down in the centre. The rest of it having long been burned away by the sun.
I knew there'd be a lake, I said to everybody else as we looked down at the viscous puddle.
Yeah, there's your place to paddle, Socrates.
Yeah, you were right. And then you begin to push your way further into the city. You know, because you were given this route in, you suspect you're probably making up time in relation to the corp that was ahead of you. But are you more interested in stealth or speed at this point? Notwithstanding the mask, which works even at a run.
Well, I think this is the bit where this is the last push where we catch up, right? And we rely on my stealth tech to just get us out of the worst of the trouble.
Yeah, we want to get there before them, don't we? Or on them at the same time.
Yeah, if they fortify positions or something in tech that they already know about, we may well be truly screwed. So let's push with a bit of speed. Sleeping Beauty will see us through.
Yeah. So you push the accelerators and begin to thud your way past the lake, and it very quickly moves into the rear view scanner, and you push away, and around you the buildings begin to get higher and higher. You imagine this lakeside view is where rich moneyed people would have lived in the before time, before the missiles fell. But right now, one bit of rubble is no more desirable than another. And you begin to push in. Who's in the lead?
I think I can be again. Hoping that my knowledge of these corpos and how they work will advantage us.
So, Dusty, as you're pushing in, you catch what you think is movement, and turning your sort of optics on it, you can see people. They're watching you from the third floor of an abandoned building. They look like they've got a mix of weapons on them, but nothing that would particularly threaten your mech. And you suspect that they didn't see you coming, and have scurried to get out of your line of sight, but not quick enough. They don't look corporate uniform. They're dressed in a whole mix of wastelander clothing.
So just sort of just like eyeing us up, but not noticing that we've seen them.
Yeah, they certainly they don't. But effectively, they've kind of gone behind walls and are watching you, but they're not reacting to you beyond that.
I think I sort of hail them and say, guys, we're not here for you. Like, you can trust us. And I'm actually going to maybe use an ability that I've got.
Okay.
Wastelander rapport. To become friendly with a wastelander who I can communicate with.
Sure.
So I'm just going to say, well, it's not after you. There's some corpos up ahead. They're the ones you watch out for. They'd kill you, string you up, as soon as greet you.
So there's a momentary silence and then a response on the radio from a very tinny handheld radio. Yeah, unknown mech. We met them already. You say they're not friends of yours?
Quite the opposite.
Good, because they killed a few of our people.
That'll be them. Well, we're hoping to get a bit of payback for you guys. So be really good if you could tell us sort of where they went and anything that might help us take them down. I think, yeah, sorry, my ability lets me ask up to 2 questions. So
It does, yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Those are the 2 questions.
So just to be clear, what were your 2 questions again? Where did they go?
Yeah, where did they go, and any clues as to that might help us take them down that they noticed, any weaknesses they noticed?
Sure, no problems. So the guy says, yeah, well they came in through the industrial area, triggered a few mines. Couldn't happen to nicer people. One of them's in a brawler, big nasty mech, but it took a few mine hits, and we got close enough to see that some of the armor on its underbelly had got blown off, so it's got a weak spot. Otherwise, they're just a couple of other. We didn't recognize one of the mechs had these strange globe type things on it, and Socrates knows that to be a mirror ball mech, which has some kind of countermeasure device that can help protect it from energy weapons. And then he explains when they came in, they were circling round the central plaza, and they came via where we were. When we hailed them, asking if they wanted to trade, they just opened up. Bastards.
You're quite right. That's the term. That's a mild term that we'd use for them. Well, that's very useful. We'll see if we can get some payback for you on the way in.
The thing they don't know, right, is they eventually turned into the plaza. But ever since that thing crashed last night, we've seen movement there. And I tell you, friend, whatever it is, it's like nothing I've seen before.
A creature?
I guess it must be, but we're no stranger to the mutated animals that live here. This is different. It was almost. I mean, you're going to think I'm crazy, right? But it was almost like it was made of metal, liquid metal. It's not possible, right? It's just not possible.
No, that's crazy talk.
But there it was. Swear on my mother's grave.
Well, you've been very helpful. We'll see what we can do to get a bit of revenge for your guys.
Appreciate it.
Maybe we'll see you on the flip side.
Yeah, swing on by on the way out, and we'll raise a glass together to the death of those corpo slags.
Off we go then.
Yeah. So you find yourself at the southern end of what would be the central plaza, and it's you imagine when it was built, this would be a shining example of a circular, a kind of circular part of the city with lots of skyscrapers and buildings in the artistic formations and created with great care, but demolished with a complete lack of care by whatever missiles landed. And you can see at this point they, in the distance perhaps look like ribs. Here they look like just the bottom jaw of a skull protruding out of the sand, but many times the size. Ahead of you, nothing but silence, and behind you, nothing but evidence of corporate misdeed. What do you do?
Just going to keep scanning about for any energy signatures, any other mechs, anything that looks like the still glowing impact crater of a shuttle, or anything that's not 1,000-year-old decaying city.
Yeah, of course, no problems. So at the minute, you cannot detect anything specific. Does anybody have any particular modules that will aid with detection? Noting, obviously, when you can see something, Gaz, you can interrogate it, but generic detection.
I'm wondering if there's something here that my engineering expertise can pick up upon. Something of liquid metal construction. This is quite a thing.
It's like
it moves in ways that we're not used to. I'm looking for maybe anti-patterns in the way that debris has fallen, has been shifted, and this kind of thing. That suggests an ingress or egress of an, dare I say, an alien creature.
So save your points, because one of the precepts of Salvage Union is the moderator must always be honest, and in this case there is nothing you could learn with that ability. So save your points. This is, you know, alien in whichever sense of the word is the right description for it, because this is nothing that your engineering and scientific knowledge could comprehend at the moment, not without getting your eyes on it.
On a more sort of mundane level, will my zoom optics let me scan
Yeah,
and try and get eyes on something?
Yeah, you want to activate that, and you use your zoom optics, and you're able to, you know, also because you've got a fairly agile mech, you can climb up on top of some of the sort of smaller buildings and look around, and you can see perhaps sort of half a mile near where the center of this plaza is. Every so often you get a flash of metallic movement, but it's not anything alien like they described. This is mechs moving around, shiny and well maintained, but it's difficult to see anything else until you get closer. But your zoom optics means you know roughly where they are.
Patching those coordinates to the rest of the squad. Assume we're sneaking up on them, guys.
Yeah, why not?
Gonna try it, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, let's go for it then.
So you have your Sleeping Beauty on, so therefore you're able to approach very, very close. You begin to move through these buildings in the shadow of and over ruined bits of building and along what presumably were the main arteries of business in Rhodes before. And you're able to get within a couple hundred meters of where the mechs are. And you've now got a much clearer view that there are 5 of these mechs. One of them's a brawler. You know that to be a sort of really effective close combat mech. One's in Hussar, very similar to what you've got. The mirror ball with its laser protective things, and the other one you recognise to be a gopher mech. It's a transporter, more advanced than the hauler, but many a hauler pilot would look down its nose at it. The remaining mech is somewhere out, and you haven't really had sight of it yet. They are pulling wreckage out of some kind of crashed airship or something, but they haven't detected you yet.
Shall we this time? I'll say, like, giving side eye towards my companion with his green lasers. He's probably already
warming up.
I can see them heating up already. Shall we arrange a coordinated assault so that when your lasers flash green and we all do something as well at the same time?
So, Gaz, you have the Eggs Mayhem hacking module, yeah? It's something that enables you to hack into something and ask questions about it. One of those questions could be breaching their communications encryption if you were able to use your Eggs Mayhem. However, noting that if they have any form of detection technology, that will break the Sleeping Beauty on you.
Yes.
That's just throwing that out as an option.
Yeah, I appreciate you making sure I'm aware of it, but it was the bit where it says at the bottom, if you fail, then. And I'm much more a fan of the green laser machine gun hacking route, I think, than the... Because we've managed to successfully get here without detection. It'd be a shame to risk giving ourselves away at this last minute. So if all my companions are of the same mind, I'll set up like a virtual clock or whatever, so it all ticks down everybody's mech at the same time, so I'll know to do the thing at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you maneuver yourselves into position. They still seem utterly unaware. You know there's a 5th mech somewhere, because you can detect the comms chatter from it, but it's impossible to triangulate it without specialist equipment. So if they're sort of in, you know, what would be a typical sort of corporate plaza area, how are you setting up the ambush?
Well, good question.
Good question.
I think if we need a distraction, I've got a bit of classic rock Walkman to provide.
That's your
audible.
answer to everything.
It is.
I mean, if they're all
What's the worst that could happen?
if they're all in a central plaza, there must be multiple ways into it, right? So
There are.
is there value then? Obviously, there's no big battle map that we need to obsess over, but as a plan, is there a value in each of us taking a different kind of road or highway so it feels like we're coming from all directions at once? So we spread out a little more than we normally would, so maybe we're more individually vulnerable, but we're hitting them from all sides. We can exploit any vulnerabilities as they appear, and hopefully shock and awe.
Yeah, I think the brawler is our big opponent here in terms of firepower, and I think my hussar might be able to nimbly sort of run around and jump on some buildings to try and draw it out, maybe get it so that its soft underbelly is exposed for another year to finish off.
Yeah, if we're all ready to react to that, that would be good. My scrap cannon is potentially good against that mirror ball thing because that's not an energy weapon by any description, and we'll hopefully just flatten it and knock out maybe some of its little antennae so that we can blast it if we need to. So maybe I'll make that priority target. But yeah, if we're all ready to react to that underbelly, if it's exposed, then let's make sure that can happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my chainsaw arm could slice through something like that if needed.
Yeah, that might be
if there's
ideal.
value in getting a couple of those.
If you can get close to it and underneath it and slice that belly straight in half, then job done.
Yeah, so is that Dusty maybe distracting it with some fire from above and leaving its underbelly vulnerable?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. And I'll try and jump around and get it to chase me.
And as it's lurching up, I'll slash it with a chainsaw.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. While Socrates does some stuff on his computer or something. That's normally what you do, isn't it?
I've got my shopping to do.
Yeah.
Can you get me some bread, please?
Yeah, got a spelt sourdough on the list. That's all right.
Yeah, cool. So, you've managed to sort of spread yourselves out and set yourselves into position. They're obviously paying so much attention to what they're doing that they're not looking for you, and you know you're obscured from their senses. So you're confident you've moved into position, undetected.
So the first thing I'll do actually, and I'll come to when I'm doing it, is I'm going to try and the brawler. I'm going to try and disable one of its systems or get a reactor shut down out of it, just so that it might seem like a glitch or something that's happened initially.
Sure.
And rely on Dusty. So while the pilot's trying to work out what's going on, maybe that's when Dusty runs in and gives it what for.
Yeah. So is that reactor overload?
It is, yeah.
Cool. So you target the brawler and you activate it, and it has to make a reactor overload. Well, okay. So yes, as our viewers can tell from that reaction, that roll of a 1 is bad news. So you obviously we see you furiously tapping and moving your tracker ball and triumphantly hitting the enter key, and you barrage it with false reactor control signals, and presumably whoever's in charge of their electronic warfare defenses took the day off, because all of a sudden the mech just starts to spark and pop, and then there's an almighty thump, and I'm just going to roll something else, and the eject system fails. So you can see the immediately the explosive bolts for an ejector system blast off the back of this mech, but ahead of that, it's just not quite quick enough as the reactor goes into complete meltdown and explodes. And there's a massive sort of shock wave and a flash as there's a massive thump of explosive energy as this thing overheats and reacts, which also it inflicts its maximum heat capacity, energy capacity in damage to all of the heat capacity, in damage to anything nearby, which also accounts, you'll be pleased to know, for destroying 2 of the other 3 mechs. So Gaz, talk us through what it looks like when you basically blow one mech up and also take the others out, please, because I've run out of description. Because I'm just too surprised.
Covered it, but everybody else gets screaming down their earpieces, shopping list, bitches. And so, yeah, I was spurred on by the comments from Dusty. It's just I'm sending him like screen grabs of everything that's happening because I get like hacking to the internal camera of the guy inside his the brawler mech as he's pressing buttons, and like the more he tries to like dump heat sinks, the more the heat rises up. And you can see him start to sweat, and like zoom in visuals. So basically, like on the fly, make a kind of meme clip collection of the inside of a mech before everything just goes, and then I take an external shot of it blowing up outside.
Yeah, brilliant. And the closest mech to it is consumed in the radioactive fire, too quick for the ejection system. But the furthest away mech, the pilot ejects out of the explosion as his mech is destroyed as well.
We need someone to tell the tale, right? We need someone to spread the rumours back of what happened here.
So there is one remaining mech that hasn't been destroyed, and that is the mirror ball mech, which has some form of shield that protects against energy, including this explosion. But it is rocked as the shockwave hits the shield, and you can see a kind of blue sparkling dome effect over it as this strange technological shield. You can imagine the mech pilot's surprise. So yeah, I believe that was the opening salvo. You all have a surprise round. Who's next?
I think I'll radio over as per the plan. Bingo, mirror balls all yours.
Yeah, tag in Bingo.
Right, yeah. Let's have a punt at this. All right, so
No pressure, nothing to follow here.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. He's got a mecha pull.
Yeah, I'm some ways back to in relative safety, but this is a whole new type of problem, right? So Socrates has gone high tech, and I'm about to go low tech, so this might completely throw them off. So I launch. So to briefly, sorry.
I was going to say, so you basically select one of the bits of scrap in your hold. The higher tech level, the more dangerous the attack. So if you wanted to use one of those tech 3 scrap, you could really give them a bad day.
Yeah, I'm tempted to. I think although we outnumber them, we need to put our best foot forward. So yeah, I'm going to use the tech 3 scrap and just catapult these bits of God knows what kind of high tech. Hopefully, I don't know, missile heads and unexploded grenades and all kinds of shit, and just hit it hard.
Well, when you make your attack roll, and then we can narrate.
Indeed, I've got this sweet table to roll on, so let's see what I can do. 11.
So, 11. 11's an effective hit. You can also re-roll, even though it's a success.
Yeah, I think I'm not going to deliberate too much. I'm happy with an 11. I don't want to risk rolling lower. I think it's still solid.
So yeah, so you're going to do 6 structure points to that, and it would be to the others as well, but they've already been destroyed. And also these attacks have the ion trait because some of these things had superconductors and the like in them. And I believe the ion trait is very bad news for anybody with electronics such as a shield. Oh,
nice one. Okay, I was worried that the electrical nature of this would be countered by whatever the mirror ball has, but
no, you'll be pleased to know that if it hits, as long as it, even if it doesn't deal damage, the target cannot use any systems, modules, or abilities that have an EP cost on the next turn, such as a shield. So, would you like to tell us what this looks like, please, Alex?
Yeah, sure. So it's somewhat similar to the scrap arm. This is a thing that looks like it shouldn't work and is just held together with kind of grease and prayer. There's this lumbering arm that's kind of been pulled back. I've had the time to load it with all the choicest bits that we picked up in that irradiated wasteland. And so when I realized that Socrates is going, I go too. I think I have to get out of my seat to launch this, and I have to like run down the mech. There's a huge lever I have to pull and then sprint back because I've not figured out a way to automate this yet. And I get back into my seat, skidding into my chair just in time to see these kind of bright scrap that catches the light, and it just thumps into this mirror ball thing, causing the shimmering energy shield around it to drop momentarily. It sounds like.
Yeah, and chunks kind of blown off the mech as the scrap slams into it effectively. Who's next?
I think I will follow that up with a relatively reserved single shot of green laser.
Go for it.
Yeah, this is the time to green laser, I think.
Heeding Socrates. warning last time.
Yep.
Yeah, so just one of the green lasers is what I'm going to do.
Yeah,
So,
you aim. 15.
15,
Nice,
yeah.
solid standard hit. So yeah, your laser burns into it for 4 points of structural damage on top of the 6 it's already taken. It is looking unhealthy.
And as I do that, I sort of bound between buildings and things using my like jump around hussar.
Yeah, so
chassis ability thing.
the mirror ball's obviously tracking you, but it's now stuck between a mecha pult and a hard place. I believe this takes us to Jag. What's Oil Slick doing?
Oil Slick is taking advantage of the mirror ball being distracted by Dusty's vaulting from one place to the next to sneak up behind and rev up his chainsaw arm and decapitate the mirror ball from the rest of the mech.
So still covered as you are by the Sleeping Beauty and awash with distractions, you easily get up to it. It's only at the last minute does it even realise you're there, but too late to react. Give me a hack it to pieces roll. Unfortunately, that's going to be a tough choice unless you wish to re-roll if you have an applicable thing or a push of the mech.
One of the reasons I left old corpo life was it was too comfortable, and these guys are under the protection of masses and masses of resources in a place that has had all manner of dismalness bestowed upon it. Hope falls for good reason, and I would invoke my background to re-roll that this is not a corporate jolly that we're going on.
Go for it.
And it's exactly the same.
Okay,
that is inevitable. Jaded by corporate life, there is a tough choice to be had here.
Yeah. So as you barrel in, and perhaps a little bit of the mecha pult scrap is sticking out and made of harder material than the mech normally is. So you can either administer half damage or you can administer full damage, but your chainsaw arm becomes inoperable for the remainder of the
fight. I'll do full damage and make my chainsaw arm.
Cool.
Inoperable.
Yeah. So you down into the thing and cut off one of the mirror balls, and the mech begins to spark and fall away from you, but somehow is still hanging on. But it doesn't have any form of melee armament, so it simply tries to get away from you. And because you've got it at such a disadvantage, I'm going to force him to roll in this regard. No, and he is utterly unable to get away from you, and you are completely. And he faces a setback of the mediator's choice. And I'm going to say that setback is you finish him off with the chainsaw arm. So yeah, as he tries to get away, you anticipate it, and the chainsaw arm is waiting and just cuts straight through his cockpit.
And I think that's what was paid to the chainsaw arm. It just lodged in as it castrates this mecha, and it malfunctions as a result of it.
Yeah. Socrates, your EW alarms go haywire as somebody is targeting Oil Slick with a remote hack of some sort. Now, I believe you have the firewall.
I was worried, and then I realised it's not me. It's been targeted and calmed down a bit, so I can take a proper look. But yeah, I do have the firewall. So assuming he's still within range of me because he ran off after that other mech. But
yeah, you're all within long range of each other.
Cool. So I could attempt to block the hack.
Yes, you can.
Firewall reaction. So does that mean I have to roll a dice? Is that what we're saying?
Yes, it was. Basically, you will spend your 2 energy points and then roll the die to see if you can block the hack.
I got a 14.
A 14, excellent success. So yeah, you detect the incoming hack and you realise it's a reactor overload, but you're able to anticipate the signals and effectively send the opposite signals to the reactor. So just for a moment, Oil Slick, your reactor warning lights flash, and then they stop flashing.
But we established before that how he kills down is by flapping his chainsaw arm. So I'll get him to detach the chainsaw, leave it stuck into the mech so he can flap his arm up and down to dissipate the excess heat that was building.
Yeah, spot on. So yeah, you managed to counter that. There is obviously that 5th mech somewhere around here. But that is not your biggest problem.
Oh.
Because that explosion has damaged the foundations of one of the buildings nearby, and chunks are falling off. Almost sort of inconceivable how they could be falling off in the way they are. Then you realise something big and metallic is moving within the building. What do you all do?
Here we go.
Well, I'll give away what I said. There's another mech out there, don't forget, and there's something coming. I'm going to grab some stuff, I say, and I'm going to run to where they were loading up the kit. And I trust that my more martial friends are going to be able to handle whatever it is as I try and salvage some of the scrap we're here to get.
Fantastic. Right. So I guess do you want to quickly make me a salvage roll, Gaz?
Yeah.
So we're going to count this as mech salvage.
2. I don't think that's very
2.
good.
So you get something, but not a lot. So you get 1 tech 6 scrap, which is
Okay.
the most high-tech scrap.
Yeah, it's not nothing.
Yeah. But it looks like, unfortunately, a lot of what they were attempting to load was destroyed for some reason.
Yeah, that was probably Oslake being reckless with his, or that scrap cannon or whatever it was.
Absolutely. At this point, the remainder of the wall falls forward, and it takes a few seconds for your brain to process what you see, as something has constructed itself into what would be a mockery of a humanoid form, with a stunted head, one arm longer than the other, strange, glistening, metallic figure about 30 meters high, and begins to pull itself slowly out of the wreckage of the building. And as it puts its foot down onto some of the wreckage, it begins to suck the wreckage up into itself. You've never seen anything like this before. But I do believe, Jag, I owe you a question from engineering expertise still from before. You've heard rumors that before the war, people were researching nanotechnology. This must be that, because it's rumors of stuff that can dismantle matter and reincorporate it into other things, which is what this appears to be doing every step it takes. This is like nothing you've ever seen before.
And it's taking the stuff that it's incorporating and expanding itself by it. So
you assume so. It's still pretty big. It's going to take a lot to get bigger, but yeah, every time it steps, if there was anything metallic on the floor, as it steps away, it's gone, and it's beginning to sort of stalk towards you because you're closest. What do you do?
There is a route away from this.
Yes, there is. Absolutely.
And there is an obvious route that it will be limbering towards. I'm wondering if I can get between a couple of buildings that it's clearly going to, and I guess there's no kind of flashback mechanism here, and having set up a high tensile tripwire effectively for something that is 30 foot tall. I guess that's what I want to try and do, something which is lure it into a relatively narrow
area,
alleyway,
sure.
and keep the attention on me. Does it look like it's unarmed? It's just sucking stuff up.
It's got very big arms, but it doesn't seem to have any weapons.
Yeah. Okay. So I will maneuver my way through the wreckage of the plaza towards a place that I will blast out my personal recreation device to keep its focus on me and lure it into an environment that funnels it so that the rest of the crew can take it down.
Okay, so can you please make me a roll to see, because it's quite risky having it come after you and stay close enough to draw it, just to see how that goes.
Pretty well.
You've nailed it. Yeah, so you manage to draw it into an area that's too big for it, and so it has to slow down as it crunches its way through the buildings, and that basically creates an opportunity for everybody, if they wish, to have a free ranged attack on it.
How about it, gents?
That's what you get for critical success.
I'm certainly not going to say no. Yep, I'm going to. I want to just mechapot again at tech level 3. God knows. I'm kind of worried that this thing might absorb. We'll find out the hard way. Let's
go for it.
Oh,
nice. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's that's impressive.
I saved the very best stuff, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, this mechapult slams into it, and it blows a big chunk of the metal turns. It almost becomes liquid as it's blown off it, and splats up against one of the buildings, and then begins to form into smaller versions of the
Oh no.
of the creature. Anybody else?
Yeah. Well, Socrates has sort of turned his back on me, so he's not here to notice that I'm going to use the twin laser on this thing. So yeah. My linked twin lasers is what I will do. So I roll twice, don't I?
Yes, please.
Correctly. So 15,
oh, nice.
Take,
cool.
13 as well.
2 solid hits. Yeah. So the laser burns more chunks off of it, but it's still barely reacting to the damage.
I'll just make my heat check as well.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm
You're
fine.
And Socrates, is there anything you wish to do?
I'm going to assume, maybe wrongly, but that there's some way of defeating it. There might be some kind of electronic intelligence with eggs mayhem to get information from it.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So spend your energy points and make a roll for me. 19. Fantastic. Yeah. So you can ask me 3 questions about it because it does have an electronic presence.
Okay. I have one question. How do we defeat it? But just add a little more. So it's how can we actually shut it down? How can we reduce it? How can we diminish it? Is there various ways of asking the same question? But
how can you destroy it? You can't. All you can do is basically do enough damage that it goes inert.
Okay. So us doing damage is affecting it, I guess, is this?
It is, but not a lot.
What form of damage would do the most to make it render it inert?
Energy. Although the mechapult got lucky.
Okay, then. Well, that's my 3 questions.
Well, that's only 2. Because
was it?
Yeah, the other one was there were 2
That's the same thing.
Yeah.
Is there a way we could distract it somewhere else?
Yes, it's obviously looking for sources of metal. So if you could get it to follow you somewhere where there was a large amount of metal, it might tie it up for long enough for you to get away from it.
Ace.
I hear there's a bit of salvage down in that lake bed. I wonder if that's going to help with frying its electrics or something while it tries to magpie.
What I'm going to suggest is that as there's like a bunch of wreckage around here now, radioactive and glowing and juicy, we perhaps like attach some tow lines and we try and like drag the sort of like destroyed bits of mech that are around behind us and lure it away or something like that. Maybe that'll do it.
I wonder if I could load up my mechapult with just like the most sort of valueless scrap, but in a high volume. So just loads and loads of bits of like sheet metal and corrugated iron and stuff we don't really need. That could also play a part in a lure, right, to start to get it moving the direction we want it.
Yeah, no, that sounds fine. So whoever's taking the lead on this kind of dragging it along sort of thing, can somebody make a roll, please? But because you've got a good plan, any consequences will be very light.
Yeah, I mean, I can roll, but I've just rolled. If somebody else wants to make a roll, he's not done.
Oh, that's fine. That 19 works. Yeah. So as described, between mechapulting volume at it and dragging other wreckage, you begin to get it to follow you towards the lake. As you begin to approach the lake, the radio pipes up. Hey, friend, you're back. Did you finish the corpse off?
Yeah, we made short work of them. You might have heard the bang.
And then it's like, oh the gods, what's that behind you?
Yeah, about that. You might want to get out of the way.
You don't have to tell us twice. And don't come back. I thought you were our friend. And yeah, you begin to, and you sort of speed up. This thing is, because you've done, you've damaged its structure a bit. It's slower, so you're able to say, especially with a good roll like that, well ahead of it as you get it close to the lake, and it very much zeroes onto the massive twisted scrap and begins to just sort of lumber down into the lake and start to try and absorb as much metal as you can. What is your plan to try and deal with it, or to exfiltrate and live to fight another day?
I think that gives us a window to try and grab some more tech.
Yeah, I think I'd probably position myself so I'm ready to go once I've done my little bit of catapulting. I've deleted some tier 1 scrap as part of that plan too.
Great.
I'm gonna just try and go to town with this, with my hydraulic crusher and with my expert salvager ability.
Go for it. Maybe a quick area salvage roll, please.
Yeah, I'll live with a 16, I think.
Okay, yeah. So you have managed to find 4 tier 6 scrap in the bits of this thing that have fallen off. And bits and bobs. They seem inert. You'll be pleased.
Yeah, I'm really going to be giving them a fine tooth comb once they're aboard. Yeah. But
and this thing's down in the lake, and it's just kind of expanding over and slowly absorbing the metal, whatever it is.
Although if we can get a little bit of this thing in a very small quantity, it might be worth studying, unless it's going to expand and cause a big problem. So maybe I don't know, maybe Bingo spots some and without kind of consulting everybody else, slips it up in a sturdy glass bottle that he has, screws the lid on tight, and puts it in his jacket.
Balances it on the mech dashboard like, precariously.
Yep.
No doubt, yeah.
Screwing on the metal lid on top of the glass jar.
It just kind of roils around in the bottom of the glass, but apparently it can't do anything to glass, so it's probably perfectly safe.
Yeah, there's potential here. Anyway, plenty of good scrap, so if someone else has a bit of time and capacity to grab a bit more, it can't hurt. But we could consider exfiltrating with these pickings. Killed some corpos, got some valuable stuff.
There is still a corpo mech around here somewhere. I think he may well be radioing in to get more help. So it's probably best we get out of here while we can.
Yeah,
absolutely. So, because you're still in a position of danger, would somebody like to roll on the retreat table for me, please, just to see if you can get away without incident?
I can do that.
I think Dusty should be in charge of a tactical retreat.
You make a perfect escape from the system, from the situation, and are able to find a shortcut back to the highway. Back past the highway through up to where you can meet the crawler.
Excellent.
So,
perfect.
Would you each like to describe a short scene as you return to the crawler, please? As we put as we draw this salvage expedition to a close.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, go off. You go for it.
We see him slip off the sort of fatigues, hose himself down once more, and the battered old book he's been carrying around is. We get a shot of what it actually is, and it's a sort of employee Evantis Corp employee details list, and we see him just cross-referencing the numbers that he saw on the mech, and just ticking off some more of his former employees in his little mech spotter kill book, and then put it back in his jacket.
Nice and slightly scary. Who's next?
Yeah, Socrates has filled in his after action report and neglected to mention the Tech 6 piece that he picked up. Just I couldn't get any valuable salvage, but did all that damage, everything was destroyed, and then you see him installing the new EW kit that he plundered to further increase the abilities of his hacking. As he smiles and just pulls off the Evantis Corp palette and stuff like that with a pair of pliers. So it's not all marked up with corporate tech anymore, but he's quite pleased with himself that he's managed to get another bit of advanced tech kit for his hacking shenanigans.
Brilliant. Oil slick. Oh, sorry. Please go ahead, Bingo, if you prefer.
Sure. Yeah. So we see Bingo getting out of his mech back onto the big hauler, what it's called, our main carrier. His arms spread wide as he slowly walks down this ramp, and he's got his family there to wait him. A massive family, 6 or 7 kids, all crowding around him, hugging him, pleased to see him come back, unscathed. And as his family piles in and he remembers why he does it, he takes a tentative glance back towards his cockpit, where we can see that strange liquid metal swirling around in the glass.
Cool. And last but by no means least, Oil Slick.
Yeah, Oil Slick has managed to maybe not get quite so much of the liquid metal that Bingo has picked up, but there's something of the fluidity of it that he's using to lubricate his chainsaw arm back into motion. And as he's fixing that on the way back up to the ship, he realizes just how effective it is, and applies that then to his old keepsake, his old Walkman. And his main concern is that he improves the audio quality and reduces the risk of tape damage to his priceless collection of vintage mixes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Oh, thank you, everybody. And
I like to think our team building activity at the end is picking from the 4 chainsaw arms we've got to replace the one that's missing off Oil Slick's neck as well.
Brilliant. I think that draws us to a close this evening.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Shane. Great to have you on, and great, obviously, to have Jag and Alex joining us again on Unconventional GMs. If you enjoyed what you saw, please do like, subscribe, and ring that bell. If you've got any comments on the game or you want to ask any questions, you can drop them in the comment section below. Shane will be happy to answer, and we can ask you for you if he doesn't see them himself. And of course, if there's other games you think we should run out, perhaps slightly obscure ones like Salvage Union that you don't hear so much about, do let us know, and we'll try and get it on the channel so we can demonstrate for you how the game runs out in about 2 hours or less. So thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time on Unconventional GMs.